Hello everybody, I'm just popping in here with a quick little video. I recognize that it's been a while since I've made a video. I've been super busy, but now that the Cannes Film Festival is over, I have been working on a Oscar prediction update video, which should be coming out in the next few days, so stay tuned for that. But this is another chapter in what I call the Oscar Book Club videos, where I read books that are going to be adapted into Oscar contending films, potentially Oscar contending films, coming out later this year. Now, I will say, I did the video on Hamnet, and in that video I mentioned I maybe was going to read Wildwood, a book that I got from the library before I knew that the film was going to be postponed. And I have read Wildwood, and Wildwood is a good book. I debated if it was worth it making a whole video on it, but ultimately I decided not to. Because Wildwood is a good book, and I think the movie has potential to be very good, and it's definitely an animated feature contender, possibly a contender for stuff like score, sound, maybe even visual effects. However, I do think it kind of stops there. If you know me, you know that I'm always looking for the next animated feature to contend in a Best Picture way, and I don't think Wildwood is going to be that. I don't think there's enough of an emotional hook to the story that is really going to compel Academy voters. I could be proven wrong, but I wouldn't. If Wildwood was coming out this year, I would not put it as a Best Picture contender. But what I would put as a Best Picture contender this year is One Battle After Another. So this movie, when I did my year in advance predictions, I put it at number 1. It is no longer at number 1. You'll see where it is in the next video. But it's so hard because the very first thing I heard about this movie was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Leonardo DiCaprio. And the combination of those two factors immediately made me have to put it at number 1. Paul Thomas Anderson is someone that the Oscars really like, despite the fact that he's never won. His past two movies, Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza, both received picture and director nominations at the Oscars. And Leonardo DiCaprio, the man, he works very infrequently, but he's very selective of the projects that he chooses. And so he has not done a film that wasn't a Best Picture nominee since The Great Gatsby. And so you'll see why the idea of the two of them working together, I was like, oh, that has to be an awards contender. And when I got the book, obviously I knew that the title of the book, Vineland, is different than the title of the movie, One Battle After Another. And I was hearing rumblings about two things. One, that the reviews of the book when it came out were rather mixed. The book was sort of divisive. And also, the movie was going to be making a lot of changes. And yet, I still wanted to read it because I wanted to give myself some sort of idea of what this movie was going to be. And now, having read it, there's a part of me that feels like I may have just wasted my time. So yeah, I'll be upfront. This book, considered divisive, and I'm in the hate it camp. Actually, before I even get into the book, I want to talk a little bit about Paul Thomas Anderson's films in general. I haven't seen all of them, but I do feel like he's one of those filmmakers that just doesn't work for me, and I just can't see the stuff that... I mean, There Will Be Blood was a very good film. The Master, it's been a while since I saw that, but I remember liking that. And it's his two most recent films, Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza. I just could not get into either one of them, and I heard so many other people be like, these are the best movies of the year. And I think what it is for me, I'm one of those people who finds it very difficult to get invested in stories if there are no likable characters. And Paul Thomas Anderson seems to be drawn to telling stories where the main characters are not likable. And I get why he does it. I get that there is a certain... not that these stories are inherently worthless, but for me, maybe I'm just simple, but I'm one of those people that finds it difficult to emotionally invest in a story if there's no one I can root for. Now, when I started reading this book, right away I made the observation that it read like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie. And so I was like, oh boy, I'm going to love this. But so here's the frustrating thing with this book. It actually starts out pretty promising. We've got this first chapter where our main character, quote unquote, Zoid, is jumping through a shop window wearing a dress, something that he has to do once a year in order to collect mental disability checks. Like, that is a really funny image to start your book on. And we soon find out that he's sort of being contacted by this old frenemy of his, Hector, who's like, I got this job for you, and there's something going on with your ex-wife and with this bad guy, Brock Vond, and there's a bit of a mystery that is being led. And it's not the most engaging hook in the world, but it's something, and we get to this moment where, like, oh no, that things are getting bad, Brock Vond is coming after you and your daughter, and now you have to go into hiding. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be like a really tense story where this father and daughter are trying to stay together and also trying to find the mother, and they're trying to reconnect with her, and all of this complicated stuff is going on. There's going to be action, there's going to be danger, and there is none of that. Because what happens is Zoid goes into hiding, and then we kind of don't see him for the majority of the book, even though we were initially told that he was going to be our main character. No, Zoid goes into hiding. The daughter, Prairie, goes and finds a friend of the mom's. A friend is named DL, I think? Yeah, DL, 2 initials. And she's like, tell me about my mom. And then DL just launches into this flashback, which takes up the majority of the book. The book is basically just, here's some of the crazy shit your mom and I used to get into for the vast majority of the runtime, which would be okay, except we have this potentially really interesting hook about the characters being in danger now, and we're just kind of ignoring that so we can get this laid back, here's what life was like in the 60s, man, when there were hippies and the government was bad and it was all of this crazy stuff, and there was pot and there was weed and there was drugs. And that's kind of the book. And Prairie is just sitting there like Kiara in Mufasa the Lion King, just every so often interrupting the story that's being told. That was honestly the comparison I made. It's not even that well written, because when Prairie interrupts something, there's not like a pause in the action or like an ellipses and be like, and now we're in present day for a scene with Prairie. No, we'll just be in the middle of a paragraph and suddenly Prairie will interject, and we've spent several pages in the past and now we're in the present. And it would work on film, but in a book it's very, very jarring to see. And especially once you realize that this is all being told in a story, you're like, oh, it's that old cliche of these characters are describing things in great detail, events that they were not present for. And here's the thing too, once we get into the flashback stuff, there's not a lot of narrative structure. It's just sort of a DL talking about her husband and how they met and how there was this whole weird thing where she had a ninja move where she could touch you and then slowly kill you through her touch. And then there's also this hippies and terrorists sort of thing with the mother and with Brock. And there's so much going on, and the book feels really, really unfocused. Every time we meet a new character, we have to spend like 2 pages getting to know the backstory of this character. And because it's so much and because it's so varied, there were moments in the book where I was like, oh, that's actually kind of interesting. And then they would immediately move on to something else. Now I'm going to spoil this book. I'm not going to put a spoiler warning like I did for the Hamlet video, because I don't particularly care. I don't like this ending. And so, yeah, I'm going to spoil it. We finally get to this moment after all of the backstory has been told, and the mother and the daughter and Zoid, finally everybody reunites, and then Brock Vond, this guy who we've been building up the whole book as this absolutely unstoppable madman terrorist who controls everything, he shows up and he's like, haha, now I got you. And then I cannot express to you how fast it is. He shows up at the top of the page, and at the bottom of the page, he's been defeated. Not by anything the protagonists do, but by the mother of Deus Ex Machinas, the government just deciding abruptly to cut his funding. And it's so fast, it feels like it was supposed to be a joke, but it doesn't fully land as a joke either, because it's not like the characters get a moment to comment on how anticlimactic that was. Instead, we immediately move on to the next thing, as we've been doing this entire book. So, yeah, this was probably one of the least favorite books that I've ever finished. Normally, if I'm not enjoying a book, I'll stop reading it, but I challenged myself to make it through this whole thing. And so... So coming out of this book, I'm like, okay, what does this tell me about this film's Oscar potential? And if I knew that the movie was going to be exactly like the book, then maybe I would say, you know what? No, I don't think this is getting into Best Picture. But because I know that the movie is going to be very, very different from the book, now I don't know what to think. We do have a trailer, and watching the trailer after reading the book was very, very surreal, because it's not like there's none of the book in this trailer. There's something there. Obviously, the characters have different names. Like, the vibe is very similar. Like, the book reads like a PTA movie, so it makes sense that the movie feels the same way. And some of the stuff that they show with the interactions between DiCaprio and his ex-wife and the friend, and like there's some stuff there that feels reminiscent, but it's a much more actionized film. There's more of a plot. But the interesting thing is the book is a period piece. The present day timeline is in the 80s, and the past that we spend so much of the book in is in like the 60s. And however, the movie is going to be set in modern day, which is really, really weird, because Paul Thomas Anderson supposedly loved this book and has been trying to get an adaptation of this book done forever. So why would he change it? Because that seems like the most crucial part. So much of this book is like, man, life in the 60s sure was crazy, huh? And if you're getting rid of that, then why not just make an original movie at this point? Like, why? So it's so frustrating, because I did not enjoy reading this book, and I don't want it to feel like I read this book for nothing. I want it to feel like I gained some semblance of information from the book, and yet I don't really know if I did. I don't know how this movie is going to play out. I know the simple fact that it's Paul Thomas Anderson and Leonardo DiCaprio means Oscar voters are going to keep their eyes open for it, and people are going to be seeing this movie. Now, it comes out in September, which is a relatively early release date, so if this ends up being a disappointment, then it's not automatically going to get nominated no matter what. But I just don't know, and I've seen people drop it from a lot of their predictions because they're like, this might be a more commercial play. I refuse to drop it entirely because the Paul Thomas Anderson Leonardo DiCaprio connection is just so strong. And again, I feel like there were some aspects of the book that were interesting, and watching the trailer, there are some aspects that are interesting. I think the movie is going to be more entertaining than the book, I'll give it that, but I don't know what to do when it comes to Oscars. Like, you want to talk acting prospects? If this movie was exactly like the book, Leonardo DiCaprio would probably be supporting. But he's likely not going to be supporting in the movie. He's top billed. He's Leonardo DiCaprio. He has not played a supporting role since Django Unchained. And so I have to imagine he is the lead, but I can't tell you how juicy the lead role is. I was definitely picturing DiCaprio as I was reading the book, that I can tell you. And is it just me, or ever since The Revenant, is DiCaprio playing characters who are just losers and pathetic? And it's sort of a weird shift from the roles he was playing pre-Oscar. I don't know why he's taking on these characters, but I definitely can see DiCaprio in this role. If he's going to get nominated for that, I don't know. but I think his role in the film is going to be enough for people to pay attention to it. Now, Benicio del Toro, all of the characters in the movie, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page now, and all the characters have different names as the characters in the book, but I think I can associate them. I'm assuming Del Toro is playing the Hector character who we're introduced to in the beginning and seems like he's going to be a major part of the story, and then he too just disappears, like Zoid, who DiCaprio is playing Bob Ferguson, but it's basically Zoid. Now, the interesting thing is Sean Penn is playing the villain, who would be the Brock Vaughn character and now is Stephen Lockjaw. So from what I understand, I think early test screenings say this is the performance to watch out for. He is the antagonistic character, and apparently in this one he's more of a Nazi, which makes it very prevalent to what's happening today. So, yeah, Sean Penn definitely as a contender. Not that you would really know that from the book, because this guy doesn't get a whole lot of screen time despite how important they try to make that character seem. And what's really throwing me off are the two women, Regina Hall and Teyana Taylor, because Regina Hall is playing the friend of the mother, and Teyana Taylor is playing the mother. And the mother character has more narrative importance, but the friend has a lot more screen time and arguably page time. And so even if this was going to be a straightforward adaptation, I'm not entirely sure which one would be the juicier part. Regina Hall is the more established name, so it does make a certain amount of sense to put her first. At the same time, Teyana Taylor recently gave a really impressive breakthrough performance in 1001, so I can see Paul Thomas Anderson wanting to give her a really juicy role. I genuinely don't know. And Chase Infinity is an upcoming new actress who appears to be playing the teenage daughter. And I don't know how big that role's going to be, because according to Wikipedia, this character is kidnapped and is not really the protagonist figure that she is in the book. So, yeah, I literally don't know what to make of this. And I'm sorry if you didn't learn a lot of new information from this video, but I feel like I had to make this video just so I didn't feel like I read the book for nothing. For what it's worth, I do think the movie's going to be entertaining. I am probably going to enjoy the movie more than I enjoyed the book. But I don't know. This movie is also... Is it Warner Brothers? I think it's Warner Brothers. And it's the same... Yeah, it's the same company that had Sinners. And if you had told me when I did my early Oscar prediction video that Sinners was going to be the bigger contender for Warner Brothers than One Battle After Another, I never would have believed you. But now I think that might be the case. I think Sinners is going to be their top priority. I think they're going to wait a little while to see how much of a splash this movie makes when it opens in theaters. But yeah, I know it's Paul Thomas Anderson, and he's such a big name, and obviously DiCaprio is a big name, and those two, I'm really just basing it off of the two of them, because even after reading this book, I feel like I know less about what kind of movie this is going to be. And I also don't know why Paul Thomas Anderson why he would want to adapt this book and then change pretty much everything about it. But not that I'm complaining, because I didn't exactly want a faithful adaptation of this book. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I will see you with an updated Oscar prediction video next time. Take care.